Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And tonight's Dynamite was from the Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. Of course, tonight's Dynamite was the go-home show for Full Gear, which is this Saturday. It's going to be on pay-per-view, and hopefully I get a chance to see it if I find a stream for it. So if I do find a stream and, it's a good stream, it doesn't buffer or, anything. So if I find a stream and watch the whole thing from beginning to end, I will review Full Gear. But hopefully, if I find a stream, it doesn't give me any problems while, watching the pay-per-view. But tonight's Dynamite, I thought it was a good show. Really enjoyed it. AEW's just been hitting out of the park every week. They're consistent. They're delivering. Their shows are good. And tonight we had Cody, Cody giving an announcement. We had Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho versus Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega. We had Pac versus Trent, and a whole lot of other stuff that happened. So let's get on with the Dynamite review. And Dynamite kicked off tonight with Pac versus Trent. And this was a decent match. It was back and forth between the both of them. You had at one point in the match where Pac did a like an Irish whip, and Trent did a flip to like the top, and he flipped back over. I thought that was cool. And it was just going out on the floor. And at the end of the match, Pac, he had Trent by the, in the middle, in the corner. Pac ended up hitting the Black Arrow. Then Pac ended up locking in the Brutalizer on Trent. So there you go. Pac ends up winning the match. And post-match, Pac gets on the mic and he ends up telling the Charlotte crowd to shut up, to shut their mouths. And he ends up saying that he heard what Hangman Adam Page said, but it won't make any difference on Saturday at Full Gear. So Pac ends up saying he's going to make an example of Hangman Adam Page again on Saturday at Full Gear. But all in all, Pac versus Trent, it was a decent match. It was entertaining. And so then we went out. Then it was Cody. Cody ended up making his entrance. Came to the ring, and he gets in the ring for his announcement that he's going to make. Tony Schiavone was in the ring to speak with Cody, and he talks about how Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle are causing havoc over the last, weeks. And he says it wasn't surprising. And this is what Cody was saying. And he says the Elite was looking for some of the best competitors to bring in the company. So Cody ends up talking about some of the greats of the past. He also mentions his father, the late great Dusty Rhodes. And he ends up naming, the biggest names in wrestling. The biggest names in wrestling were wrestlers, and he also mentions about management. Cody ends up saying AEW is the Ellis Island for wrestling. He says this is freedom. So Cody says he's heard the criticism of being in management and in a title match at the same time. He says, and he ended up saying that he gets it. So Cody then announces, this is the big announcement that he was going to make. So Cody ended up announcing that if he doesn't defeat Jericho at Full Gear, he will never challenge for the AEW World Championship ever again. So Cody ends up saying that he's heard Jericho calling him a millennial bitch. And he says, someone who grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. So Cody ends up saying that Jericho grew up with a similar childhood. And he ends up calling Jericho a stupid dick, which the crowd reacted and loved that. And Cody ends up telling Jericho that he needs this generation more than it needs Jericho. Cody says it's taken him 14 years to get to this point, and that he won't be desecrated by the claims that Jericho has been saying. He ended up saying he went from undesirable to undeniable. And Cody ends up saying that the Elite will eat the Inner Circle alive when they eventually meet in the ring. So that was what Cody had to say. And this was a really enjoyable, good, awesome promo from Cody. In my opinion, this is the best promo in pro wrestling for this year. I absolutely enjoyed what Cody had to say. It was right on point, and it was just all out great, and it was enjoyable. Loved what Cody had to say, speaking from his mind, because of course AEW, they're not doing any scripted promos, like WWE is doing, has been doing for years. But all in all, great promo from Cody. Really enjoyed it. Really loved it. Then we had the Dark Order versus Private Party. Now, this was a decided match. Who would be the third person to take on SCU and the Lucha Brothers at Full Gear for the AEW World Tag Team Championships? So it was the Dark Order and Private Party. SCU, they made their way out. They were on the announce team, the commentary team. Pentagon and Phoenix were part of the Spanish announce team. And I say Dark Order versus Private Party. This was a good match. This was a very entertaining match. I like Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Gwen. Dark Order is Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. And Private Party, absolutely entertaining in this match. I like what they do in the ring. And the end of the match, Private Party end up getting the win, and I love the finisher that they do. The finisher is named Gin and Juice, and it's a very awesome finisher. Really love it. So Private Party end up hitting the Gin and Juice on Stu Grayson. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Private Party ends up winning the match. So Private Party is now the third team to take on SCU and the Lucha Brothers at Full Gear for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. So I'm very happy about that. So I think it's going to be a very fun match to see at Full Gear. Even though, in my opinion, my prediction, SCU is not going to be losing the championships at Full Gear. Since they just won it. So SCU is still going to retain the championships at Full Gear. They're walking out of Full Gear still the tag team champions. And then after that, we had a vignette. We saw Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, he was sitting in a room by himself. Sammy Guevara comes in. He asks Jericho, what kind of bubbly he wants. So then we see Jericho. He's in a tub. Got a blue light there. And he's drinking some of the bubbly. And we see, Soul Train Jones, who is known to people as Virgil. I'd like to know how much they paid Virgil to sit down here and talk, for a few minutes about Jericho. So he ends up praising Chris Jericho. And Guevara ends up saying that Jericho is in the prime of his life. And he is the youngest AEW champion in its history. Yeah, he's the first ever AEW champion. So then it cuts to Jake Hager. Jake Hager doesn't say anything. He's just there like that. Doesn't say anything. He just stares at the camera. And Jericho says it's tough to get up every morning and realize how great he is. And so Soul Train Jones, a.k.a. Virgil, he ends up saying that Jericho's talent is like Olive Garden breadsticks, unlimited. And Jericho, and during this whole thing, we heard the crowd. I guess they were chanting still for Private Party, and you could tell some of the fans, they did not care about what was going on, with the Jericho stuff here, because I kind of heard the crowd cheering for Private Party. And I guess they were chanting for SCU. So then Jericho ends up saying, I have, a little bit of the bubbly. And that's when the crowd got a big pop when Jericho ended up, saying that, a little bit of the bubbly. So, and that's how the video ended with Jericho, with these people praising Jericho. And then there was at one point where there was an older woman, I guess it was Jericho's friend from church, as it said, and she ended up saying, "Oh, Jericho is going to kick Cody's ass at Full Gear," which I ended up laughing at. But this was a really good video with got these guys praising Jericho. Though it was done really well. It was awesome. Really enjoyed it. Then we had Sakura and Jamie Hayter versus Riho and Shanna. This was a women's tag team match. And I gotta say, the match itself, it was a very entertaining women's tag team match. Wasn't bad. Not not perfect match by any means though, but it was entertaining. I like Riho. Shanna, she made her debut last week on Dynamite. She was decent here. And at the end of the match, Sakura and Jamie Hayter win the match. Sakura ended up hitting the La Casita, I think that's how you pronounce the name of the move, on Riho. And the referee counted 1, 2, 3. And there you go. Sakura and Jamie Hayter win the match. And Riho was just shocked there. But all in all, it was an entertaining women's tag team match. Wasn't perfect by any means though, but then we had a Brandy Rhodes vignette, and she is shown drinking some wine. Brandy ends up saying that she's worked so hard to get where she's at, constantly gets dismissed for just being Cody's wife and not being good enough. And during this, we see, Awesome Kong shows up in flashes. Brandy ends up saying that with Kong's body and brain, they can rip through anyone. So Brandy ends up saying that they can be stopped and wonders who are the bullies now. So that was the Little Jeannette with Brandy Rhodes. But looks like we're going to get a tag team going with Brandy and Awesome Kong when she shows up. That's going to be a pretty awesome team right there. So really am interested in seeing this. Seeing a team of Brandy and Kong, Awesome Kong. So, but it was a really good vignette with Brandy Rhodes. Then we had Shawn Spears versus Brandon Cutler. Of course, Shawn Spears came out with Tully Blanchard. And match, it was a short match that lasted 8 minutes. So pretty much Shawn Spears was dominating through this match. You had Tully Blanchard interfered, which led to Spears taking control of the match. Spears ends up pulling Cutler out, throws Cutler into the barricade, ends up hitting the running knees to Cutler, ends up chopping him, and Spears ends up winning the match, end up hitting a Death Valley Driver to Cutler. So there you go. Shawn Spears ends up winning the match. Then the post-match, Tully Blanchard ends up slipping in a chair to Spears. Spears looks like, he's going to try to hit the Death Valley Driver to Cutler on the chair. But Joey Janela ends up running out, and he ends up chasing Shawn Spears away. Joey Janela then ends up taking the chair, throws it at Spears. So Spears ends up grabbing the chair, and he ends up going to the ring, but Tully Blanchard ended up pulling him back. And then we just see Joey Janela is, right there. He's yelling at Spears to come to the ring. And that's basically what happened post-match. But it was a very short match between both of them. Then we had the main event. Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. And this was a good tag team match. And really like that. Chris Jericho ended up coming out. Jake Hager escorted Jericho out there. But it was a good match. It was back and forth between them. Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. They were entertaining here. I like seeing Jericho and Sammy Guevara there. One half of the Inner Circle. And in the end, you had the Inner Circle, Jericho and Sammy Guevara win the match. And Jericho ended up hitting the Judas Effect on Hangman Adam Page because Pac ended up coming out. Pac was on the ring apron. He ends up blowing Hangman Adam Page. The referee's back was turned. And so that's when Jericho came in, ended up hitting the Judas Effect to Hangman Adam Page. And there you go. Jericho and Guevara win the match. Then you had what happened post-match. And this was really, really good. I loved the hell out of this. This part right here, this is how you hype a pay-per-view. This made hype for the go-home show. This whole thing right here got you hyped for Full Gear and makes you want to order the pay-per-view just to check it out and watch it. So Cody ends up coming out. He ends up taking out Guevara with a uppercut. And the only reason why Cody came out is because Jericho, Guevara, and Hager were being down on Hangman Adam Page. So Cody ends up running out. He ends up going for Jericho, but Jericho ended up getting away. And that's when Cody ended up hitting Sammy Guevara. And then Cody ends up yelling back at Jericho. They were yelling at each other. And Jericho and Hager make their way up the ramp. Then out of nowhere, MJF comes out and hits chair shot to Hager's back. MJF then hits Jericho with the chair in the gut, in Jericho's gut. And MJF then escorts Jericho back to the ring. Cody is in there. Cody was in the ring. Cody ends up hitting the crossroads to Jericho. And Kenny Omega comes into the ring. Cody ends up grabbing the AEW World Championship, holds it up, crowd cheered. They loved what they were seeing. And then Jon Moxley is shown coming out. He's shown coming to the ring. He had a barbed wire bat. And so Moxley ends up getting in the ring, ends up facing off with Kenny Omega. Cody was looking on. Then we saw Jericho then attacked Cody from behind. And then he ends up dumping Cody out of the ring. And Kenny Omega end up backing off. And Cody, Jericho, Hager, and MJF, we saw them fight on the ramp. Kenny Omega comes back into the ring, and it's shown that Kenny Omega had a barbed wire broom. So we had Omega and Moxley looking to battle. Santana and Ortiz run in. Of course, two others from the Inner Circle. They run in. They end up. He ends up knocking Jon Moxley into Kenny Omega. They both, Santana and Ortiz, both knocked Moxley into Kenny Omega. And Santana and Ortiz beat down on Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. Then the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, come down. They end up delivering a double super kick to Santana and Ortiz. And they knock them out of the ring. And sorry about that, but I was saying the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, they end up hitting a double super kick to Santana and Ortiz. Took them out of the ring. They end up hitting suicide dives, and they battle on the stage. And then Santana and Ortiz, they end up picking up Matt Jackson. They almost do a powerbomb to him, and Kenny Omega ends up making the save, ends up hitting the V-trigger on Ortiz. Then Moxley ends up hitting a DDT on Santana. And we saw right there Moxley and Kenny Omega. They start fighting each other. They start fighting to the back. And it's just, the Inner Circle and the Elite. They're just brawling on the stage. And we see Nick Jackson. He heads to the top of the circle set, the entrance circle set. And what was really awesome was Nick Jackson ends up hitting a senton on everyone down there, and that senton looked really cool. It was awesome. Takes out everybody. Jericho ends up going into a cameraman. He knocks the cameraman over. We got a holy shit chant from the crowd. And the Inner Circle, they end up going back to the ring. Jericho, Guevara, and Hayter. And, the Elite are like, oh yeah, come on. You want more? Come on. And so Matt and Nick Jackson, they run down, and the brawl still continues because Matt Jackson ended up charging down, and everyone there started, fighting again. They were brawling, And that was pretty much how Dynamite went off the air tonight. But all in all, I loved the hell out of this ending. I loved this brawl between the Elite and the Inner Circle, also Moxley and Omega. This brawl with everyone here, it delivered. It got you hype for Full Gear, and it's what a go home show should do for the pay per view. Unlike what WWE does, where they don't make their go home shows, seem fun and interesting and makes you want to watch the other pay per view. But this got me hyped up for Full Gear on Saturday. But like I said, love the hell out of this ending. I really loved how Nick Jackson ended up doing that senton off of the circle set, and the whole brawl was done really great. But it got you hype for Full Gear. It makes you want to watch Full Gear and see what will happen on the pay-per-view on Saturday. So anyways, that's it for the AEW Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching, and until next video, be sure to give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, I'll see you all later.